The Raiders get back to action, back to work for only a handful more times before they break for summer. Plus, what is the Raiders supporting cast? How are they being looked at and viewed at from the NFL world? That plus more on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for June 2nd, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. You're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast. That's awesome. You're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. You know we appreciate that as well. Your consistent support makes the show continue to grow each and every day. And, of course, the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes on the YouTube page. You want to talk about consistent, his consistent job that he does, and he does a great job. We definitely appreciate him. He's the reason why, or he's the only reason why the YouTube page even exists. So we shout him out. We appreciate him in a major way. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Matter of fact, we'll close out the show as we normally do, hearing from you. A lot of really good calls, a lot of really good texts that we received over the weekend. So we'll try to bang out as many of those as possible in segment number 3. Segment number 2, David Hellman did a really good piece in Fox Sports for all 32 NFL teams. We always talk about the quarterbacks when we do the rankums, right? It's rankum season. I told you that around this time of year, you're always going to get a lot of rankings. Well, he went and started to rank the supporting cast of all the teams that are around those quarterbacks. So offensively, what are the weapons looking like? How do they rank across the rest of the league? So we'll take a look at the Raiders and we'll take a look at the rest of the AFC West and how that kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about quite a bit here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So that'll be coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, it's just news and notes of the day, and we'll jump right into it. After I can't give the first of the month celebration, I'd love to come on here and say, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month, but I couldn't do it since the first of the month was on Sunday. And as a matter of fact, it really would have been cool to be able to do it because June 1st is Little Q's birthday. So Little Q celebrated his 22nd birthday on Sunday, so it really would have been fun. So no coincidence, right? That as much as I celebrate the hood holiday around here, the first of the month, my son was obviously born on the first of the month. But shout out to Lil Q. Happy 22nd, even though it was on yesterday. But for today, June 2nd, the Raiders are back in action. They're at OTAs again. They only have a handful more of these practices, June 2nd through 5th. And then mandatory minicamp June 10th through 12th. So today we won't be out there, have an opportunity to talk with coaches or players, but most likely probably tomorrow. I mean, obviously Wednesday would be the last opportunity for this round of OTAs. We will get one of these days. So it'll either be tomorrow or it'll be Wednesday. And then mandatory minicamp June 10th through 12th. I actually took those days off of my ESPN show because those are ones that we'll be able to be at the whole practice and we'll be there for all 3 days. So I want to make sure I don't want to miss anything. Those will be the last 3, June 10th through 12th. That'll be the last 3 practices until they come back for training camp. Right, and we don't even have a training camp schedule yet, so it's going to be a minute. So there'll be a nice little lull, right? That's when everyone goes on vacation, the team goes on vacation, players, they go get their rest and relaxation in before they get on that grind, which is training camp. So, of course, when we get that information, I'll pass that along as well. But, yeah, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday is the last 3 days of practice this week, and then next week, June 10th through 12th, mandatory minicamp. Anyone who's under contract will have to be there and present or else they'll get fined. And if they're not, well, then that could be a question as well, as Jack Besh is still unsigned as far as his contract goes with the Silver and Black. And I know that there's a few outlets out there that have reported that he signed. The Raiders haven't made it official, and the Raiders always make it official when these guys sign. I know there's some that are anticipating how much it's going to be, so I think they've already kind of projected it, but it's not done until it's actually done, and the Raiders make it official. And you know, as soon as they do, I'll obviously bring it to the show and talk about it. So that's it for the practices. Again, a couple days this week and a couple days next week, and done. Done until training camp. I also wanted to bring this to segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Ramona Shelburne, she does a great job just covering sports in general. A lot of NBA, a lot of baseball for ESPN. She does a fantastic job. But she's covered college football. She's covered the NFL. She's LA, so she knows Pete Carroll very, very well. She knows my guy Vinny Bonsignore really well. And so he was filling in on Friday for JT the Brick Show, and Ramona was on. And she's a lifelong Raider fan, which I wasn't even aware that she was a Raider fan. But he was just kind of getting her thoughts on everything we've been talking about a lot, this staff, Pete Carroll, what she believes that the, realistic expectations for win total should be. But I got not excited, but I got my ears perked up when I heard her kind of talking about the new staff led by Pete Carroll and how that she views what they're doing from a distance. Check it out.
I mean, like, so having some grown-ups and people who have done this before and people who've had success before in these roles. And I think that's huge, right? I mean, Chip Kelly is one of the most brilliant offensive minds of his generation. I think that's going to help. Like, Gino is finally empowered now. I think it's great for him to feel some security and some sense that, like, hey, we believe in you. You're our guy. I think that's good. And also, like, I mean, Pete Carroll, like, you and I both know him from LA. I mean, when I used to cover him with the Trojans, it was he just had this, I don't know, it helped me in my life even, right? Like, he had this approach to life where I was an athlete. I played in college, and I would get nervous with things, and I would kind of say, like, how do I, like, be a big game or a big moment, or I'm going on TV, or I get, these big thoughts. And I always, I wouldn't sleep very well the night before. And then you have to kind of, like, learn how to play with your nerves and stuff. And Pete had this approach to it where he said, you're not nervous, you're excited. And he got these guys to buy into that. He got these college kids to buy into that and understand what that means, and, like, kind of just let it rip. And literally anything you do in life, if you can learn how to just let it rip, it changes your whole life. Like, instead of playing with pressure, you're playing with enthusiasm. Instead of playing with, fear, you're playing with joy. And it's just the athletes and the people I know in any walk of life who are able to channel it that way are the most successful.
I love that answer right there from Ramona Shelburne, and I really like the tail end of it, when she's talking about you're not nervous, you're excited. Just go out and let it rip. Play with enthusiasm instead of pressure. I played that clip because that literally is what the inner game of tennis is about. Remember, that's the book that I said that Steve Kerr and Pete Carroll, they kind of learned their coaching techniques from. They really leaned heavily in that book, and I didn't really know what it was all about. So I said, well, I'm going to get the book, I'm going to read it, and kind of learn at the same time so I can ask Pete Carroll about it. But literally when I heard her describing that is exactly what they're describing and what they're talking about in the book. And I'm not going to act like I've read a whole lot of it. I've read, I think, 3 chapters so far, but that was the exact kind of breakdown. As soon as I heard that, you're not nervous, you're excited, just go out there and let it rip, play with enthusiasm instead of pressure. And I think that's hard to do, right? And you heard Ramona talk about, times where she could hardly sleep at night. And I find myself doing that. Sometimes I know I got a big show the next day, or, I got a lot of expectations the next day, and I'll have, my mind will just be racing all night and I won't really be able to sleep. And again, it's the excitement that you have for the opportunity, and so you you can't really calm your mind down, can't really calm your brain down. You can't just instead of having pressure, have that enthusiasm. So I thought that was really cool, and that's why I wanted to bring that to the table. And again, as I mentioned before, I didn't really realize that Ramona Shelburne was a Raider fan as well. But that was a really good conversation that she had with Vinny Bonsignore on Friday on Raider Nation Radio 920. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I want to get into this piece by David Hellman, FoxSports.com. Which quarterbacks have the most help ranking all 32 NFL supporting cast? We'll talk about the Raiders, where they're ranked, and the rest of the AFC West. We'll do that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here, and that is LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clocked out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. So how does it work? Well, I'm glad you asked. All you got to do, LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions, then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And I got a pro tip for you. All you got to do is add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture. It'll double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Right now, post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into this piece that I saw on FoxSports.com. Matter of fact, my man Ari actually brought it to my attention. David Hellman does a really good job in covering the NFL for a very long time, covered the Dallas Cowboys exclusively for a long time. That's where I came in acquaintance with him, but been covering the league for a long time. So he put out a piece on FoxSports.com ranking all 32 offensive units. Which quarterbacks had the most help? Again, is David Hellman, FoxSports.com. So I'm just taking a look. What intrigues me is the AFC West and where he believes the Raiders are as far as, evolving and what their offense could look like. And again, it goes with all the feelings that we have of, pretty positive momentum going, a lot of positive conversation for the team, believing that the offense could be really good, especially with Chip Kelly now in place. So obviously you got the Raiders, you got the Broncos, you got the Chiefs, and you got the Chargers. So at number 10, they had the Kansas City Chiefs. First of all, I noticed that it was number 10, right? I mean, the Chiefs were ranked all the way at 10, which to me is kind of they are taking a little bit of a step back, which is something that we've been talking about quite a bit here on the show, that, I felt at least that they were going to take a slight step back. Does that still mean that they're going to be good? Absolutely. Right. But I just feel like that, everything doesn't last forever. We know that. And it does feel like that they're starting to slide a little bit. But when you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be just fine. So next in the AFC West was team number 17, the LA Chargers. So he said, we've got to give the Chargers credit for at least trying to bump the talent around Justin Herbert. Adding Mekhi Becton to a group that already featured Joe Alt is going to give the Chargers one of the biggest lines in the league. Putting two backs like Amarion Hampton and Najee Harris behind them is downright nasty. So he goes on to talk about a little bit of the upgrades that they tried to provide for Justin Herbert. I think this is a huge year for Justin Herbert. I really do. And I know a lot of people won't admit it, or a lot of people will give him a pass, but I've been very adamant about what has he done, right? He keeps getting all this praise and all this, elite categories, and he hasn't done anything. I think this year, especially now that Jim Harbaugh is there and supposed to be all problems are solved, I think this is going to be a huge year. So they come in, the Chargers, at number 17. Next up, right behind them, behind them at number 18 is the Denver Broncos, and they went on to talk about the offensive line and the offensive play callers from Sean Payton, and obviously they've got a second-year quarterback in Bo Nix. So then where do the Raiders rank? Well, they come in at 21st. So 21st out of 32, he says, I could see the vision in Vegas, even if it's not fully formed yet. Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers offer a strong combination in the passing game, and Ashton Genty can tie it all together on the ground, with hopefully some big play potential remaining in Raheem Mostert's legs. Laugh if you want, but new offensive coordinator Chip Kelly had some explosive results in Philadelphia, particularly on the ground. I'm intrigued to see what he could do with a backfield this talented. The Raiders need more depth at the skill position, but this is a solid starting point for the Pete Carroll era. It's all going to depend on the offensive line. This is the key right here. Is this the unit that surrendered a whopping 19 sacks in the first half of 2024, or the one that allowed just 9 in the back half? That will probably determine how successful this offense is in the early going with Geno Smith at the helm. So number 21, that's not some glaring number and some glowing review like, oh man, this team's going to be fantastic. But I do feel like it aligns, it tracks, right, with everything that we've been talking about, that this team is not just all of a sudden going to turn into some juggernaut in one offseason and a change at coach and some other coaches and players brought in. It's going to take a little bit of time to really build it, but you can see that it's going in the right direction. Like he said, I can see the vision in Vegas, which to me, when I read that, I'm like, wow, there's actually a vision being seen, right? Because, I mean, how many times have we talked about the plan? Don't just have a plan, have the plan. And none of us knew what the plan was. At least you could see the vision. At least you could tell that there is a plan. I like the fact that he said, about the offensive line. Which offensive line is it? That's something we talked about quite a bit, right? This team is going to go as far as the offensive line goes, right? I mean, Ashton Genty could be a fantastic running back. Geno Smith can do everything he can with his arm, throw for 4,000 plus yards, but he can't do it from his back. So the offensive line is going to have to really step up. So again, that goes back to, which one are they? Are they the offensive line that was really struggling in the beginning of 2024, or the one that got better towards the end? Right. And I think that's a fair conversation that we've been having. And then Chip Kelly, as we talked about on Friday's show, what his ability to really get this offense and, not try to make them do something that he wants them to do, but what do they do well? How does he take these pieces that they have? And there are some pieces, but as David Hellman pointed out, they do still need some more depth. And I think we all know that. There's going to be some young guys that are going to be, asked to step up early on, like Jack Best. He's going to have to probably play a big role, right? Dante Thornton might be a young guy that they, lean on heavily. So there's not a lot of depth on the team in general, just because so many draft picks have not panned out. And that's just the reality of it. So that's why you have to be able to stack 2, 3, 4 draft picks in a row or draft classes in a row that are really good. And I do think it started to get better. I think you're starting to see some players step up, the last couple draft classes, but they've been different, GMs, they've been different head coaches. And so they all have a different vision of what they're looking for in certain players. But I think we've seen a lot more talent as of late coming out of the draft than what we saw, in years ago. And I'm not trying to throw Mayock or try to throw Gruden or try to throw anyone else under the bus, but the reality of it is that they miss more times than they hit, and that's the problem. So they have to continue to build that depth. But being 21 is not bad. Again, it's nothing that's like, oh man, they're just crapping on the Raiders. No, I mean, it's basically tracking with what we've been saying, that this team went from being a team that won 4 games a season ago to my expectations of this team could probably win 8 games, right? Double their win total from a year ago. And I think that'd be a massive step in the right direction. I think at the end of the year, even though the Raiders would miss the playoffs with only 8 wins, I think we could all come back, turn on this show and be like, man, that was a good season, right? That was a good season. We saw a lot, right? We saw the vision and we saw how it's evolving, right? Jacoby Myers is a heck of a wide receiver. He's probably going to be a lot better, well-known around the league after this year, just because I think he's continuing to get better. Brock Bowers, he's only going into his second year, and he's already one of the best tight ends in the league. I would say at least top 3 right now, hands down. That easy, right? Top 3. I'll give him that, right? I'm not just going to go straight to number 1, but I'll say he's top 3, right? And you can argue wherever you want to put him there. That's fine, right? If you're top 3 at anything, you're doing pretty stinking good. So I thought that was pretty fair, right? And it also shows you that I don't think that these offenses are too far apart, like 21, 18, 17, and then the gap is between 17 and 10 between the Chargers and the Chiefs. But the Chiefs take a step back and the Raiders and the rest of the AFC West take a step up. Boom. All of a sudden, you're a lot closer and a lot more in the middle. I feel like this division is going to be a lot more close than what people believe. I think that people understand that this is going to be a tough division. Every game is going to be tough, but I think these teams are going to really start to even out more than what we've seen in past years. And I think that that's a positive as well. So again, you can go and check out all 32 teams where he has them all ranked. That's fine. I just wanted to go over the AFC West. So again, the article is called Which QBs Have the Most Help, ranking all 32 NFL supporting cast. David Hellman penned it. FoxSports.com is where you can find it. So what's on your mind? Your calls and texts are next at 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts are at that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. As we get started, I wanted to go back and reference a text that we got last week on the show, and I didn't have the 100% answer. It was a text from Johnny Raider. It says, "Sup, Q and RE? Johnny Raider here from the LBC. Texted in once before a couple seasons ago, but I listened to this and your radio show pretty much every day. Really excited about this upcoming season, all the new additions. Hard not to be with the good press they're getting for once in my life. The main reason I'm texting in is just because I was listening to today's show. It was Wednesday, May 28th, and you had a caller named Just Win Wendy call in. I want to see if you could follow up on the statement she made regarding Geno Smith being the fastest guy in the Seahawks last year. I heard that once somewhere else, but I find it hard to believe when you have guys like DK Metcalf and Tariq Woolen on the team. If that's a fact, that's amazing. It makes me even more excited. Regardless, he's a lot more mobile than anyone we've had in a long, long time at the quarterback position. Thanks for taking the time to follow up on that. Thank you so much for all that you do. Really awesome getting Raider content every single weekday. Take care of yourself. Love on your family. Just win Raiders." That's from Johnny Raider. And the reason why I wanted to follow that up is because, well, Raider Nation's awesome. Raider Nation is fantastic. Of course, after that episode dropped, we had a tweet from our guy Zach. He said, "Q, in regards to the question on Locked On Raiders and Just Win Wendy's call," and apparently from 4:15:24, the NFL put out a tweet. "Geno Smith hitting a top speed of over 21 miles an hour in OTAs is absurd." So apparently, whatever was going on, it was year 12, and he ran 21.67. Tariq Woolen ran 21.53. Jackson Smith and Jigba 2103. Anyway, DK Metcalf wasn't featured on here, so he obviously didn't show up that day. That must have been one of those voluntary OTAs that he didn't show up to. But yeah, so that was what it was. And so Zach pointed it out, and then just when Wendy actually responded as well, she said, yes, that's where I saw it. So that's pretty cool. That just lets you know. I mean, he's not going to be the fastest dude on the squad. There's no doubt. Like, I'm not going to play some money on Geno Smith versus Ashton Genty and think that Geno Smith's going to win that race. But clearly, the dude can move. And that's to your point. And so I just wanted to truly follow up because Zach did. So Zach did all the work for me. So I definitely appreciate Zach. He's on Twitter at RunZGB, at RunZGB. And yeah, he referenced and knew exactly what you were talking about. So Johnny Raider, thanks for the text. And Zach, thanks for the follow-up as well. Up next, got a call from Trice in New Jersey, calling to give his prediction that he says is sure to go wrong. Here's Trice in New Jersey.
What up, Q? Trice from New Jersey here. Just real quick. In the department of predictions sure to go wrong, I have a breakout player, and let's say it's Tyree Wilson. 11.5 sacks, couple of strip sack fumble recoveries, right? Let's say two this season, propelling that defense, stepping up in a major way, looking like the next Myles Garrett out here, right? Come on, he has to pop. He has to. Stepping up like that, we're sure to get 11 wins. Yeah. Predictions sure to go wrong. Trice from New Jersey. Just win, baby.
All right, there you go. Tyree Wilson, breakout player. Look, 11.5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, right? Year 3 for Tyree. Oh, man, that would be a breakout in a major way. And look, he has a lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but he's got a lot of proof this year. He really does. He's in year 3. He's on his 3rd staff, right? He didn't get drafted by John Spytek. He didn't get drafted by Tom Telesco. He got drafted by Dave Ziegler. So he's got to really prove who he is going into year 3. Not saying that he's going to be cut or anything. Like, he's not going to make the 53-man roster, but he could turn into a rotational piece and then not get his 5th-year option picked up and end up not being the guy that they expected him to be when they selected him over number 7 overall just a couple seasons ago. So, yeah, he's got a lot to prove. But, man, that would be truly being the Robin to Max Crosby's Batman that he was selected to be if he could have a season like that. I haven't given up on him. I like him a lot. I don't want to talk about it. I want him to go out there and be about it. Go out there and prove it. But really good call, Trice. I definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider Adam. Hey, Q. Raider Adam here. Love the show. Just wanted to see if Patrick Graham would be there to talk, too. Would like to know how he works with Pete Carroll and if it seems like he'll be around for a while or if he's only there to ease the transition to the new staff and then he's off somewhere else next year. I know he's a player and a fan favorite. Would like to see him stick around. That's from Raider Adam. You know, it's funny. At OTAs sometime this week, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to talk to head coach Pete Carroll. We talked to offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. There's a good chance that we'll be talking to Patrick Graham sometime this week. So definitely looking forward to that. And if we don't talk to him this week, we'll talk to him, I'm sure, the 3 days that they have mandatory minicamp, June 10th through 12th. So we'll definitely get PG. I just saw him, went to the Aces game on Friday night. They were playing the LA Sparks here in Vegas, and I just saw him there. Saw him at a Golden Knights game. I mean, he's living his best life, man, and he's looking happy too. Like every time I see him, he's got a big smile on his face. He feels like, it's like I don't want to say he's about to break out as far as the defensive coordinator, but it feels like there's something really positive going on with him and that defense as well. But we'll definitely get a chance to hear from him sooner rather than later, and I'll definitely bring that to the show as well. Up next, got a call from RaiderBoyd out of Wheeler, West Virginia, the 304. He's calling to ask about breakout players and shares his thoughts on who he thinks they'll be. Here's RaiderBoyd.
Hey, Q, this is RaiderBoyd from Wheeling, West Virginia. A longtime Raider fan, longtime listener. Appreciate what you do for the nation. Quick question on my end. I want to know who you think is going to break out for the Raiders on offense, who you think is going to break out for the Raiders on defense. My opinion, I think Raheem Mostert, man. I think it's a guy who's not talked about enough. I think it's a guy who's going to complement Ashton Genty. I think it's a guy who's going to score a lot of touchdowns. And then defensively, I think Tyree Wilson steps forward this year. I really would like to see some things from him. I think Isaiah Pola-Mao is a very good player. And just wanted to get your opinion on it, man. Thanks for what you do for the nation. Always listening, always supporting. See you later.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. I do appreciate you. Anytime I hear West Virginia, all I could think about is 304 and my big snafu I had on ESPN radio when I was trying to reference the 305. But thank you for the call. I do appreciate you. Raheem Mostert on offense, huh? That was something that was pointed out in David Hellman's article when he was talking about the Raiders and their supporting cast. Raheem Mostert, that guy's a guy that finds the end zone. That's the one thing he's really good at doing is finding the end zone. So if he could be a nice 1-2 punch with Ashton Genty, still want to know what Zamir White's role is going to look like this year. How is he going to get in where he fits in? Where does he fit in? Does he fit in, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions around Zamir White, but Mostert being a true vet, I would love to see him play a role, even maybe one like Amir Abdullah played a season ago. So I like that. And then another one for Tyree Wilson. Oh, look out. Tyree's got some supporters out there, right? Not mad at that at all. And Isaiah Palamau, I gave 3 last week. And it's funny, as soon as I gave them, I guess I talked to myself so much I talked that I forgot who they were. So it was Big Mike, Michael Mayer, obviously the tight end. That would be my one on offense. I think that Chip Kelly is going to have an opportunity to use him and showcase him for the first time in his NFL career. He was really sticking good at Notre Dame, so he could still be that guy. Plus, I think he's going to be used for blocking as well. So Big Mike on offense. I said Malcolm Kuntz on defense since he missed all 2024. Want to see if he could build off what he did at the end of 2023 when he really, truly broke out, where he had, 8 sacks in 9 games? Like, that was incredible. So hopefully he's able to build off that and really have a big year. And then I said Isaiah Palamau as well. He really started to come on towards the end of the season last year. Would love to see him really take that next step. But those are the 3 guys that I had. This has turned into a little bit of a topic. We might have to have a whole show on breakout players and who we think that they could be for the Silver and Black. Thanks so much for that. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Jamal in South Carolina. It says, hey, Q, this is Jamal from South Carolina. Do you think Cam Miller has a chance to be the Raiders starting quarterback? We have seen great play from SCS players like Dallas Goedert and Carson Wentz. That's Jamal in South Carolina. And Jamal, thanks for the text. Appreciate you, brother. And, I mean, look, Cam Miller is a 6th-round pick, right? So the thing about it is he has time to grow. He's got a 4-year deal, and that's why I think it was important to get a quarterback as well, because Aiden O'Connell's going into year 3. So his 4-year deal is going to be up soon, right? Pretty quick. So that's why I think that them resetting it, and if they find what they like, then sure, Cam Miller has an opportunity. But the fact is that they don't have to force him into that action because he's a 6th-round pick. He could end up being a guy that's a really good backup. I mean, you never know, but he'll have an opportunity. I think that's the biggest point, is that he definitely will have an opportunity to show you what he can do, but there's no pressure to get him in anytime soon. So thanks so much for that text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Darren from the 203, calling to talk about Chip Kelly and what he was saying about evolving offenses, and points out in particular what he had to say about Lamar and what Josh Allen are doing as well. Here's Darren from the 203.
Hey, Q, Darren calling from the 203. The the press conference with Chip, and you guys, he brought up single wing and how Lamar and Josh Allen are doing single wing type of stuff. I've played in a single wing offense in high school, and it's very much, for those that don't know, it is smash mouth football to the nth degree. We're running the 8-hole, and the 8-hole is basically, think of like a halfback stretch, an extra blocker play, like an extra fullback, running to that boundary, the edge of the line on the right side, strong side. Anyways, you just run the 8-hole again and again and again. There's nothing you can do to stop it because we're just going to wear you down. It's a very, very fun offense to be part of. Not very fun to watch. Besides the point. The point I do want to bring up is I have wanted to see a team modernize the single wing for a while. And I think the Raiders have the skill set to do that. And for those that don't know what the single wing is formation-wise, you have a tackle/guard on the left, a tight end on his left. I should have said, so tight end, tackle/guard, center, guard, tackle, tight end, right? Mayer on what would be called the 2, on the left side, Howard's at 8, and then 8 on the right side. The tackle and the 8, tight end. I think Besh would fit perfectly there. For tailback, who is technically the quarterback, that would be Tommy. Obviously, you'd have Ashton Genty. And then you have a blocking back as well. I don't know who that would be off the top of my head, because that's more of like a big body, hence the blocking back name. But like, he's not on the team, obviously, but Alec Ingold would have been a perfect player like that. I would love to see an NFL team modernize that. So, I don't know if you can drop that into Chip's ear, be like, hey, you should try and modernize this. That'd be cool. Appreciate you, Q. Have a good one.
Darren, thanks for the call on the breakdown. We need to get you on the chalkboard, my man. Who needs a Baldy breakdown, right? We got Darren's diagrams, right? I'm sure he's already been thinking about that. I don't think he needs me to get in his ear and say, hey, Chip, why don't you think about doing that? I'm pretty sure. And that's why I wanted to ask him the question about evolving offenses, because I just wanted to see where he was at. And the fact that he went to the history and said he's a big history buff when it comes to offenses, let me know that he's looking at everything. Like, he's in the lab right now looking at film and looking at the, high school football game, college football game, right? NFL action. Like, he's taking something from everyone, the arena league, the indoor, whatever he's looking at, right? The UFL, whatever. If there's some football going on, Chip Kelly's looking at it to see what he can take and see what he can apply. Like, that's what I thought was interesting when he was talking about the quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Lamar. And he said that, if you can do that, if you have the personnel to do that, then you can do it. If you don't, okay, well, maybe down the line when you have a quarterback that could do that, or you have personnel that could do that. I was thinking about the offenses that, Lamar is running and what Josh Allen is running, and that the Raiders don't have a quarterback that can necessarily do that. Even though Geno Smith is way more mobile than any quarterback they've had in a long time, he's not going to be doing that kind of stuff. He's not going to be doing Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen stuff. So I found that to be interesting for sure. It's funny. I think, didn't Raider Adam? Yeah, I got an extra text from Raider Adam. So there you go. We'll get one more text from Raider Adam. He said, hey, Q, on yesterday's podcast, I noticed the DB coach didn't mention JB when he was talking about the good in the defensive back room. I didn't think anything of it until you mentioned on today's podcast he wasn't starting. Could be good or bad news. Either our DB room got way better or JB doesn't fit the mold of what they want to do. I guess time will tell. Go Raiders. And again, that's a text from Raider Adam, the second text from Raider Adam that made the show today, and definitely appreciate that as well. And yeah, that's why I asked about JB, because he hadn't mentioned him. So if you missed that, here's my question to Coach Marcus Robertson about Ja'Cory Bennett and his response. Ja'Cory Bennett was having a heck of a season last year, and then end of the season due to injury. What are you seeing from him in particular,
right,
especially going into year 3?
So his biggest issue is that he is still coming off the injury, so kind of a little bit of a slow start coming back off the injury, but he's stepping up. He's doing well, just working with the techniques and things of that nature. So, if you know Pete Carroll defense, he's got a certain technique for his corners to be able to stay on top in the cover 3 stuff. So just trying to master their craft in that regard. And it's going to take some time. But he's working his butt off, and so is the Camryn. He's going to be solid for us. So I'm just hoping that this off-season training camp will continue to grow and continue to become ultimately a dominant secondary, obviously with hopefully with our pass rush and all the combinations of things that we'll do.
So he's coming back from injury. He's still learning the Pete Carroll technique for defensive backs. He's working his butt off, but still in the learning and recovery process, which again goes to the fit the mold of what they want to do, right? I mean, they always have long, really fast corners, and he's not as tall as the rest of the corners that they have, but he still definitely could play a role. And he's strong, so he can be physical at the point of attack. Like, he can get up there, and man, he was playing some really good ball last year until he got injured. But I do think that he definitely has a role and probably will be the starter. He just has to get all the way healthy, and then he's got to get his his technique and everything down so he can not be a liability and be doing what everyone else is trying to do out there. But I did find it to be pretty interesting as well when found out that JB wasn't one of the starting corners. So thanks so much for both of your texts. I do appreciate you. Got a call from Crash Dog in LA. We'll get that tomorrow. Got some more texts that we'll get to. And of course, if we get an update on what day we'll be allowed to be out at practice, I'll give you that as well. But we got plenty to bring to the table all week long. Love doing this. It's funny that the Locked On NFL podcast, they're actually in off-season mode right now, where only 3 shows a week are required. Nah. We're not doing 3 shows a week. We're going all 5 days. 5 days long, 5 days strong. That's how we roll here, because that's what Raider Nation, that's what you deserve. So we definitely appreciate you, like I said, for tuning in each and every day, whether it's on the podcast version or the YouTube page. We appreciate both. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.